All right, so here we are back into the nasal passageway. So let's look at our bone. Let's look at the root of inhaled air. Here it comes up and in, and this is really cool. Here's our epithelial tissue, and their olfactory bulb is the nerve endings are actually extending down past the bone, past the epithelial tissue, and into the nasal cavity here. So when air is inhaled, the air actually goes and passes right at the end of these nerve endings. So that's where it's picked up. It's picked up. It then travels to the next neuron. There's a glomeruli here, and this particular cell is called a mitral cell. But that is going to go take the olfactory tract directly to the brain. So the brain, the olfactory system, olfactory nerve, which we see here, right? This is the olfactory nerve. This is the nerve tract, is directly linked to the limbic system. Let's just look at this image again. We have the information coming in, and just with one synapse here to this olfactory bulb going back into the brain. So the proximity, it's the physical proximity of the limbic system, right? That's like the emotional center, emotion, behavior, motivation, long-term memory, and also coordinates with olfaction or sense of smell. So it's large housing in the limbic system, and it is critically aiding the formation of memories. So we often have memories that are associated with sense of smell, and it can be pleasant. You could have a sense of smell that has a positive memory associated to it, or it can be negative. I'll give an example of being in the cadaver lab and sawing through bone. Bone, when you saw it, has a very specific smell to it, right? This kind of heat producing, burning, and sawing of bone. So that very specific odor, I smelled again when I was in the dentist office getting a root canal. They had to drill into the bone in my jaw, and that really brought back memories from the cadaver lab. So I had more of an association with this kind of corpse dead body with that smell. And so I just want to say that it does stick with you. So if you smell certain things, last one more. So the other thing is with cheap meat. You should always eat the best quality local meat that you can eat. It's important for various reasons, but if you can't or don't, that's also okay. My thing is that I was trying some sort of chicken, and it had something that smells very similar or tastes very similar to what the cadavers are preserved in. And so I can't, even if I want to save a little money, I can't eat cheap meat because of that similarity in, in preservatives. Okay, let's move forward. Oh, to the eye. All right, I'm happy to show some of the superficial structures of the eye to start. So we have the eyebrow, which protects sweat from like getting into our eye. This palpebrae is the name of the fleshy covering. So when you close your eye, you have a fissure, right? So if you imagine this eye closed, there would be a line in it being a fissure. So the palpebrae fissure is that space between this fleshy part and this fleshy part. Okay, so we also have our eyelid, eyelashes, the pupil, of course, and our iris. Here, this white part is called sclera. Sclera is covered in something called conjunctiva, which is just simply a fancy name for a membrane lining. This lacrimal caruncle, right? It is associated with tears, but also there's a sebaceous gland here, and what that does is it excretes a oil, and what happens is then when that oil is excreted, sometimes you'll see like, oops, excuse me, a white buildup in the corner of that eye, and that's a result of that oil coming down or out. All right. So here's just some nice looks at the eyes, right? There's a lot of dexterous movements of the eyes and quick movements. These are small, fast, and effective, precise muscles. As we age, they become less precise, but with eyeball exercises, you can keep all these pulleys, all these muscles just pull the eye as they contract. So if this contracts, it pulls the eyeball upward, right? If this one contracts, it pulls it downward, sideways, etc. There's lots of different motions that can happen here. Okay, so this is, I want to talk about the conjunctival sac. Okay, so there was this conjunctiva was lining, right, just over the sclera, the white part here. Right here we have the cornea and the lens, which is clearance through. But this sclera here, you can see the conjunctiva. And then here it lines into this fleshy part and creates a sac. And this is, if you wear contact lenses, this is where actually the contact lens tends to sit, is right in here. So let's see if there's inflammation in the conjunctiva. It's called conjunctivitis, and that's also known as pink eye. It's bacterial and highly contagious. So you want to isolate from infecting others with it, right? Not touching it, etc. Not to spread it. It's painful, but it does go away. You can get topical medical prescription treatments, or you can always, with any eye irritation, start with creating something like tears by adding salt to water and using a clean cloth or paper towel, taking a dip into the water, clearing out the eye with that salt water solution, just gently wiping it, and then changing the corner of the cloth, doing it 2 or 3 times, and you do that 3 times a day until that inflammation goes away. Okay, so here's another look at some of the anatomy. So let's start with this the ciliary body. Okay, so the ciliary body is going to be right in conjunction with or becomes the choroid. Okay, so this is called the choroid. What's tightly adhered to the inside of the choroid is the retina, right? And illustrated here in yellow. So this ciliary body is important because it is where the sensory ligaments are attached, and this, when they contract, it'll cause the lens to change shape, and right, and that will lead to accommodation in your vision for seeing near or for seeing far. The ciliary body is continuous down here with the iris, and the iris is going to be that part of the eyeball that is colored. The iris has a foramen in it which is called the pupil, right? And that allows light to enter. Okay, here we can see the lens. Again, it will bend and refract light. And the last thing I want to point out at this time is the optic nerve. Okay, so that's going to go, it's a cranial nerve that's going to go back to your brain to transmit the information. And we also have a nerve and an artery running alongside that. Here's some pupil dilation and constriction. I just want to show that the parasympathetic causes circular muscle contraction around the pupil, whereas the sympathetic is going to pull in this direction, and that's going to cause the fibers to dilate and open up. So, right, so it's a circular pull versus a linear pull in opposite directions. And here, this is just an illustration that both are there at the same time to be activated by the autonomic nervous system.